Ever wondered how a hacker might guess your password? Ever heard of a brute force attack? It's a term that might sound aggressive, and rightly so. It's a method used by cybercriminals to crack the code, to unveil the secrets behind your online persona, your password. In the vast landscape of cybersecurity, brute force attacks hold a notorious reputation. They're the sledgehammers of the hacking world, blunt but effective, relentless in their pursuit of access. This method is as old as the hills, yet it remains a crucial tool in a cybercriminal's arsenal. But what exactly is a brute force attack? How does it work? Why is it still so prevalent in this age of advanced technology and sophisticated security measures? Take a deep breath, brace yourself, and prepare to dive into the complex, fascinating, and sometimes frightening world of cybersecurity. Let's dive deep into the world of brute force attacks and see how they operate. A brute force attack is a trial-and-error method used to obtain information. In the vast realm of cybersecurity, this is a term that often sends chills down the spines of security experts. But what exactly is a brute force attack? Imagine you're trying to guess a friend's secret code. The code is 4 digits long. You start at 0000, then move on to 0001, and so on. You're manually trying every possible combination until you hit the correct one. That's the essence of a brute force attack. A hacker trying every possible password combination until they stumble upon the right one. Brute force attacks are as basic as they come in the world of hacking, but don't be fooled by its simplicity. It's a method that can potentially crack any password, given enough time and computational power. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. But the hacker has a machine that can sift through every straw at an incredibly fast speed. However, the time and resources required for a brute force attack are immense. The number of possible combinations for an 8-character password, for example, is astronomical. It's in the quadrillions. That's a 1 followed by 15 zeros. Now imagine trying to manually input all those combinations. It would take several lifetimes. But hackers aren't spending their days manually typing in passwords. They use sophisticated software that can churn through thousands of combinations per second. These tools can also be customized to try common password patterns first, greatly reducing the time needed to crack a password. Yet brute force attacks are not infallible. The longer and more complex a password, the more combinations there are to try. A strong password can effectively render a brute force attack useless, as it would take an exorbitant amount of time to crack. So that's a brute force attack in a nutshell, but how does it actually work? Imagine you're a hacker. Your mission? Crack a password. Now let's delve into the nitty-gritty of how a brute force attack unfolds. Picture a colossal vault with a combination lock. Your task is to figure out the correct sequence to unlock it. The brute force strategy here is straightforward. Try every possible combination until you hit the right one. In the digital realm, this translates to testing every possible password combination until you stumble upon the correct one. You start with the simplest password, often a single character. It could be A or 1, for instance. If that doesn't work, you move on to the next possibility, say B or 2, and so forth. This might sound simple, but remember, the number of possible combinations can be astronomical. For instance, an 8-character password using just lowercase letters already has over 200 billion possible combinations. Now imagine the possibilities when you factor in uppercase letters, digits, and special characters. At this point, you might be wondering, wouldn't this take an eternity? Well, not really. Here's where the role of software tools comes into play. Hackers use specialized software to automate this process, enabling them to test thousands, even millions of password combinations per second. A popular tool used for this purpose is a password cracker. This software uses computational power to systematically check all possible password combinations until the correct one is found. These tools can be configured to start from simple combinations and gradually increase in complexity. For instance, they might start with single-letter passwords, then move on to 2-letter combinations, then 3, and so forth. Simultaneously, these tools can also leverage common password patterns. Most people, when setting passwords, tend to follow certain conventions. They might use common words or replace letters with similar-looking numbers like 3 for E or 1 for I. By factoring in these patterns, a password cracker can significantly speed up the brute force process. However, brute force attacks are not always successful. They require three critical elements: time, computational power, and a bit of luck. The longer and more complex the password, the more time and resources it takes to crack. And even then, there's no guarantee of success. If the target uses a strong, unique password, it could take years, even centuries, to crack it using brute force. On the flip side, if the target uses a weak, common password, it could be cracked in a matter of seconds. That's why it's often said in the world of hacking, the strength of a password is directly proportional to the time it takes to crack it. So, as a hacker, you keep trying. You patiently feed combinations into your software, watching as it tirelessly tests each one. You know the odds are against you, but you also know that every failed attempt brings you one step closer to the correct password. And voila, if you're patient and lucky, you might just hit the jackpot and crack the password. Sounds scary, right? But don't worry, there are ways to protect yourself. It's time to talk about countermeasures, the actions we can take to protect ourselves from brute force attacks. First things first, let's discuss strong passwords. This might seem like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how many people still use password 123 or their birthday. A strong password is like a sturdy lock on a door. It's the first line of defense. Use a mix of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. And please avoid using easily guessable information like your name, date of birth, or common words. Now let's move on to two-factor authentication, or 2FA. 2FA adds an extra layer of security by requiring not only a password and username, but also something that only the user has on them. Like a piece of information only they should know or have immediately at hand. Like a physical token. It's like having a guard dog alongside your sturdy lock. Even if someone guesses your password, they'll need this second factor to get in. Next, we have account lockouts. This is a security measure where an account gets locked after a certain number of failed login attempts. It's like having a security system that locks down your house after too many failed attempts to open the door. But be careful. This method can be a double-edged sword. If not implemented correctly, it might give hackers another way to disrupt your service by intentionally locking you out. Finally, we have CAPTCHAs. You've probably encountered these jumbles of numbers and letters that you have to type in to prove you're human. They're designed to protect against automated attacks by requiring a human touch. It's like having a secret handshake that only humans can perform, and there you have it, 4 ways to defend against brute force attacks. Remember, it's not about being completely invincible, but about making yourself a harder target to hit. Because in the world of cybersecurity, sometimes the best defense is a good offense. So stay one step ahead of the hackers. Remember, the best defense is a good offense. Stay one step ahead of the hackers. So what have we learned about brute force attacks today? We've journeyed through the intricate world of cybersecurity, and specifically, brute force attacks. We've come to understand what they are, how they operate, and most importantly, how we can protect ourselves against them. Let's take a moment to recap these key points. A brute force attack, as we've explored, is a trial and error method used by hackers to gain access to an account or system. They systematically check all possible keys or passwords until the correct one is found. It's the equivalent of a burglar trying every key on a keychain until they find the one that opens the door. The process of a brute force attack is not sophisticated, but it is relentless. Armed with extensive lists of commonly used passwords and plenty of time, hackers can attempt thousands of combinations. This is often automated using software that can run continuously, trying combination after combination until it hits the jackpot. But it's not all doom and gloom. We've also learned about countermeasures against brute force attacks. The first line of defense is a strong, complex password. The longer and more complex your password, the more time and resources a hacker would need to crack it. In addition to this, enabling multi-factor authentication adds an extra layer of security. This means even if a hacker manages to guess your password, they still won't be able to access your account without the second form of verification. Other measures include limiting the number of failed login attempts and using CAPTCHA tests to ensure that a human, not a bot, is attempting to log in. Also, keeping your software, including security software, up to date is crucial. In the end, it's a game of cat and mouse, but with these measures in place, you're giving yourself a fighting chance against brute force attacks. Remember, knowledge is power. Stay informed, stay safe, and keep your